now the next model which we will see is check. Okay, check. Okay. Right. Everyone there? Or only the
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay.
Yes.
Great. So there's not much interaction today, too much of data, right?
Yes, too much to
Okay.
read about.
Yeah, too much of, but this is the last part of difficulty. After this, I can say this is the only hard part, a little hard part, because we have not touched into system level things in a very long time. So this is the only part where you need to have a little bit patience. Once you read it 2 times, it will not seem so difficult. Okay. Now continuing ahead, right? Uh, Now I will go to some slides where I need diagrams. Okay, diagram we have seen, ACM seen, Bell-LaPadula. Okay, now Bell-LaPadula is a very commonly used model in access control system where you require mandatory controls. Okay, mandatory controls means A will occupy, A will only go and access B. Okay, so these are the mandatory rules. Okay, so it's basically to protect the confidentiality of data. Okay, now how the model works is actually a little interesting. Okay, now say there are 3 properties. One is called no read up, second is called no write down, okay, and third is no read or write down. Now let's explore the first property, that is no read up. Okay, now imagine in this figure, okay, there is a user, okay, he's not allowed to read above his privilege rights. Okay, he's not being allowed to read. He is allowed to read only on his level, and he can also read what is below him. Now, what happens is, if he's not allowed to read data which is above his classification, you are protecting confidentiality. Now, say this is top secret level, okay, and the label which this user has is secret. Now, the moment you follow no read up property of Bell-LaPadula, that means you can access data within your own level, that is, you are accessing secret and you are accessing confidential, but you are not allowed to access top secret. Thereby, you are protecting the confidentiality of this data. Okay, this is called the no read up property of Bell-LaPadula. Okay, now then second property is no write down. Okay, you're not allowing the user to write down. Okay, why? Okay, you first allowed him to read what is here. So this is secret. He's able to read secret. He's also able to read top secret. Okay, you have allowed him to read top secret, you have allowed him to read secret, but you are not allowing him to write below his classification level at the confidential level. Why? You are now aware of secret data, you are now aware of top secret data, and you by mistake or by purpose might write at a security classification, means you are writing high classification data into low classification. So you are not allowing that. That rule is called no write down. Okay, no write down property. And finally is no read or write up or down. That means you are not allowed to read up or down. You are not allowed to read or write up or down. You are only allowed to access data within your own tag, which is given to you. Okay, this is called no read or no write up or down. This kind of Bell-LaPadula modeling protects the confidentiality of data. Clear? Please practice this. One question will definitely be there from Bell-LaPadula or BIBA model. Right? Next is the BIBA model. What is the BIBA model? Something similar to Bell-LaPadula, but it protects the integrity of information. The main aim is to protect the integrity of the information. So first is no read down. So again, let's explain this with the help of this diagram, right? The first information is this top level is top secret. This is secret. And this is confidential. Okay. Now, as per Bell-LaPadula, what is the first rule? No read down. No read down means you are not allowed to read down. Why? Because if you read this information, okay, and you have access to secret data, you have access to top secret data. By reading confidential data, there is a chance that if you read this information, you might write into this information and you might corrupt this information. So you're not allowed to read any information below you, because if you read that, there is a chance that you might write and corrupt this data, thereby protecting it, the integrity of this information. Clear? Second property is called the no write up property. Now, how does no write up property protects the integrity of data? Okay, let's see. So you're not allowed to write up. Why? Because you have access to secret data, you have access to confidential data. The moment you are allowed access at top level, okay, you might end up writing information here. Okay, so you are not allowed to write only, because now you have access to this information and this information. If you're allowed to write on the top, you will corrupt this information. So you're not given access to that information. You are given access only here. Okay. And then finally is no read up or write up or down, so that you again stay within your classified limit only. And that way you protect the integrity of data. Now, such BIBA and Bell-LaPadula models are generally followed in very, very strict access control level requirements. Okay. Right. Now, the next model is called the Clark-Wilson model. What is Clark-Wilson model? Clark-Wilson model is again an access control model, okay, which is formed on well-formed transactions and separation of duties. Okay, so try to remember this word. If you look in this diagram, okay, if there is a constrained data item, what is a constrained data item? Data item which, if accessed, can affect the confidentiality and integrity of the system. Okay, you might have unlimited access to unconstrained data item. Like if you go to your office, you have access to certain very, very normal information, right? But if there is something very constrained, you are required to become a system administrator for the email server, you cannot access it directly. You have to go through a transformation process. You might have to go through a very strict, rigid verification process, and then only will you be able to access the constrained data item. Such kind of well-formed transaction, where this is a well-formed transaction, such kind of a process or modeling is called Clark-Wilson model. Okay, so remember, a constrained data item, an unconstrained data item, okay, and the subject, how it is trying to access the unconstrained or constrained data item. Okay, that's called a Clark-Wilson model. Then the next model is called the Brewer-Nash model. Okay, Brewer-Nash model says that if a subject is trying to access object 1 and object 2, and there is some clash of interest, there is some clash of interest, that is, there is some conflict which arises by this particular subject trying to access object 1 and object 2, you have to control this conflict. Okay, and you do not give access of that particular data object. Just to give you a simple example, okay, in this example, if you see, Okay, let's see. If there is the L1, right? Okay, L1 is supposed to access. So he is a customer support, L1, and he's only supposed to see username and what is the complaint, right? Once he has verified the complaint, he escalates the complaint to the L2, right? Now, L2 has got access to username, has got access to address, okay, and has access to certain verification data, right? And he has got the controls to resolve the problem, right? Now, if L1 is able to access username and address, okay, there could be a conflict of interest. Why? Because L1 doesn't have that trust value, okay, but he has got access to the address. So if you have got access to username and address, L1 is not at that trust level. It could lead to conflict of interest. So that's why under such conditions, you will not engineer the access to address. Address is just an example. Some other, anything. It could be, salary structure of your employees. So other than HRs, nobody is supposed to have access to the salary structure. So if you look at Brewer-Nash model, you will find that such access levels are, wherever there is a conflict of interest, Brewer-Nash models are implemented, right? There are many other models. One is the Gogian messenger model. It's a non-interference model. There is Sutherland model, okay, based on, again, state machine and information flow model. Up to these models, it is important, right? Then there is something called a Graham-Denning model, which has 8 functions. How to securely create an object, delete an object, okay, delete a subject, grant access, remove access, delete access, and transfer access. Okay, so this is the Graham-Denning model. And finally is the Harrison-Russo-Ullman model. Harrison-Russo-Ullman model is a matrix-based, system of rights and so this is subjects, this is objects. The access control matrix tells what are the rights. Okay, so it's got a finite rights which it gives. Okay, that's called the Harrison-Russo-Ullman model. Okay, right. I will not give these questions right now. Okay, this is how you evaluate the access control levels between subject and objects. Okay, any doubts till now? Please ask. You have to read it now. This is the part you will have to do some self-study. Okay, so now once we have seen that how to build system architectures and secure architectures, now you have to select controls based on what is the security requirement of a system. Okay, so what happens is once you have selected a system, okay, once you've selected a system, okay, you have incorporate design security by design, and now you have to evaluate the controls. You have to evaluate the controls, and once found satisfactory, you say you are authorized to operate the system. Okay, system is allowed to be operated. Okay, now there are standards which you can follow for selecting controls. Okay, you can select controls based on certain standards. One of the standards is called the common criteria. Okay, now what is common criteria? Common criteria is given in a standard called ISO ISC 15408, a very, very important I'll say standard if you are into system evaluations. Okay, if you are into system evaluations, you want to know how this system is supposed to be tested, whether it meets the desired standards. Then common criteria is a methodology by which you can say that how to evaluate a system to understand what kind of security or quality assurance does this system have. Okay. Now, what happens in common criteria is you've developed a system, right? So you, as per the architecture, you developed a beautiful system. Okay. You developed a system. You developed a system, and now you want people to trust you. Your clients to trust you. But clients, and now you want the clients to buy the system by trusting you. But clients do not have the requisite wherewithal or resources to find out whether that system meets their requirements securely or anything. I'm buying a laptop, I don't know what is built up, I don't know what are there. So what happens is, to get that trust, I go to a common criteria lab, okay, and I get my system evaluated. And based on this evaluation, I'm given something called EAL. EAL levels, equipment assurance level. Okay. EAL is numbered from 1 to 7. 7 is very, very high rigid form of system testing. 1 is not very rigid form. So up to EAL 4 and above, the systems are considered to be highly secure and highly tested systems. Okay. So what happens is, basically, you go to common criteria testing lab, okay, and you present the system which you want to get evaluated. The system which you want to get evaluated is called the target of evaluation. Okay, that is the target which you want to. So what is the target? Okay, so you take the equipment, you say that this is the target of evaluation, and you want the system to meet a given security target, that these are the standards amongst which I want my systems to be checked. Okay. The common criteria lab then tests the system against the given security target and protection profile that you want to enjoy, or you want your system to be compliant with. Based on this testing, the common criteria lab gives you 7 testings, okay? EAL1 to EAL7. Now, spacecrafts and systems related to spacecraft aviation are tested for EAL7. Software systems are generally tested for, critical software systems are tested for EAL4. What does it mean? It is written. If it is EAL1, means it is only functionally tested. EAL2 is only structurally tested. EAL3 is only methodically tested and checked. EAL4 is where cryptographic systems are checked, methodically designed, tested, and reviewed. Okay. EAL5 is semi-formally designed and tested. EAL6 is semi-formally verified, designed, tested. EAL7 is formally verified, designed, and tested. These are high-risk situation systems. Okay. And that's what common criteria gives that assurance. Now, if I come to the market and say, this system of mine is EAL7, then the client knows that the system can be trusted without any issues. Okay. To get an EAL certification, you have to spend a lot of money. Firstly, there are no EAL labs in India. I don't think there is an EAL lab in India. It's only in Europe. One is in Europe, I think. But India does not have an EAL lab. You can only emulate EAL methodology, how to test a particular system. Right. Now, once you have proven to the client that you have certain level of trust in your equipment, then the organization might authorize you to operate your system. Okay. ATO is a procedure in US by which systems, once checked, are authorized to be operated by some other vendor, somebody else, right? So that those systems are means it has been verified that you can use such systems. ATOs are decisions given by some regulatory body that you are authorized to operate the systems because you have met the common control criteria.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe our channel.